Have you tried Molly Tea, a premium Chinese milk tea brand that is actively challenging Chai? Recently has opened a few flagship stores in Singapore. So in the United States, in New York specifically, Molly Tea has also been very successful. The first store in Flushing, which is a Chinatown in New York, opened in 2024, and it achieved $500,000 of sales a month during the opening month. So, but recently, the store has been covered by lots of question marks. The logo was covered, the store menu was covered. What happened? Apparently, the local partner of Molly Tea, Mr. Liu, was very unhappy with some of the actions that the brand was taking. So Mr. Liu went to Molly Tea in 2023 when it was still a small but upcoming brand in China with about 100 stores. And he thought the flavors were pretty unique and he wanted to bring that to the US. So at that time, it was a pretty straightforward negotiation because Molly didn't really think too much about the US market. They didn't have the ambition, so it didn't have energy or time or resources to do that. So somebody came in and said, okay, I can do it for you. Why not? But what the two parties didn't agree on very clearly in the beginning is who owns how much of the venture. So this is typical in Chinese business relationships. That for saying that, okay, let's get the business started, then we negotiate on how much each party should get. So in 2025, the parties actually agreed on an agreement where the local partner would own 80%, whereas the brand would own about 20% of the business in the US. However, the business went much better than expected. So I'm sure that lots of people have second thoughts. So earlier this year, the headquarters, the brand principal, wanted to revise the agreement, and they actually sent a formal document saying that okay, the ratio should be 35 versus 65. And when a new store was opened, the brand actually asked for 70-30 arrangement. So of course, the local partner was not happy about it, and he said, "Okay, I'm the one who built up all the operations, who negotiated all the rent, hired the people, make sure that things actually sell, and I built a brand in this country, and you are coming in to try to reap the fruit that I built." So from the brand's point of view, obviously they see a different story. They see that okay, if they take more control of the business, and there's better potential for that. So this is a story that we see as a pattern in many places. I think people in Singapore will be familiar with the episode of Gongcha when it first entered and then exited Singapore. So we wanted to change the agreement with the local partner who got so pissed off, and overnight he rebranded all the stores with a separate brand called Liho, which is still around everywhere in Singapore. And you see that in other brands as well. So people in the industry would know that famously with a very large brand in Indonesia with a few thousand stores, there has also been a tussle between the local partner and the brand. So the question I think goes beyond the normal contractual obligations. It's a pattern we see in business relations. When two parties come together to do business and to introduce a brand into a new country, they bring in complementary sort of capabilities, which is very hard to evaluate. I mean, how much is contributed by whom? And when the business is going as expected, which clearly in the beginning, I think especially the brand side will not have that much expectation. Things are okay. But when things go way beyond expected, when it becomes very successful, this is when people start having second thoughts. And I do think such a distrust between a potential brand and potential local partner is the key reason why many of the Chinese F&B brands that could have actually expanded more aggressively into other countries have not been doing so. Because from the brand's point of view, they want the local partners to pull more weight. And at the same time, they distrust the local partner and they are not sure whether local partner will stay for the long term. And from a local partner point of view, they are putting all the hard work of actually securing the store, hiring the people, running the operations. And they are also scared that, okay, if I do all these and do things up, then the brand will take it away from me. So that's a deadlock actually preventing lots of brands from expanding effectively And that doesn't just apply to Chinese brands. So we have seen a lot of Japanese and Western brands experiencing similar episodes in Southeast Asia as well as other parts of the region. We have analyzed the different kinds of working relationships between brands and the local country partners or license holders across different countries in Southeast Asia in our Chinese F&B in Southeast Asia report, which was published last year. So you can get a link in the show notes. But for Molly per se, or for that matter, with Chaji and Latin Coffee, the Singapore operations will not have that concern because the brand is coming direct. But that applies to a small market like Singapore. For larger markets where there are lots of local complexities, the issue is still persisting, and I think requires careful navigation for both parties to actually make it work.